investigator for the Part 2 scheme on ethno-veterinary medicine training and research unit by Tamil Nadu Veterinary and Animal Sciences University during the year 2007 and 10 with the outlay of 18 lakhs. Sir has served as a principal investigator of the ICAR scheme on outreach program on ethno-veterinary medicine during the year 2012 to 2017 with the outlay of 80 lakhs. He served as a co-principal investigator in the Netherlands-funded TANUVAS FRLHT training for 150 veterinarians with a project cost of 13 lakhs. Then Sir has obtained a project with an outlay of 13.72 crores on ethno-veterinary herbal product research and development center from State Planning Commission, Government of Tamil Nadu under TANI scheme with 2017 to 2020. Now it is being implemented in the Veterinary College and Research Institute, Varathanadu currently. Sir served as a principal investigator in the Department of Science and Technology project with outlay of 27.81 lakhs for 3 states on reducing antibiotics in milk during 2017 and 19. Sir is the pioneer in ethno-veterinary medicine curriculum. He developed effective remedies against common diseases of livestock and poultry for farmer self-reliance in primary health care. Apart from his effective recipe against mastitis, he has developed an effective herbal recipe for foot and mouth disease to be used by farmers. Sir has won many awards. A few I have mentioned here. He has awarded with the Fellow of National Society for Ethnopharmacology during the year 2017. He has been awarded Fellow of Indian Society for Veterinary Pharmacology and Toxicology in the year 2016. A Lifetime Achievement Award for promoting Siddha medicine presented by Government Siddha Medical College, Palayangotai, Tamil Nadu during the year 2014. Sir has received TANSA Award, Tamil Nadu Scientist Award during the year 2013. Sir has received award for ethno-veterinary medicine recipes dissemination awarded by Tamilar Valviyal Iyakkam. With lot of laurels and wide experience, we are very happy to invite our guest speaker, Professor Punyamurthy Sir. Now he is serving as a Professor Emeritus in the University of Transdisciplinary Health Sciences and Technology, Bangalore. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajarajan. Shall I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So my greetings and a very good evening to the chairman, vice chairman, secretary, and treasurer of the Indian Dairy Association Tamil Nadu chapter, and there are other officials from West Zone and all the participants from different walks of life. I'm actually a farmer-friendly veterinarian. I'm thankful to Dr. Rajarajan putting it in a very nice way, but I just feel that I'm a farmer's man. So whatever I do, especially in the last 20 years, I've been part of that desire to help, at least in a small way, for the small farmers, especially who are finding it difficult to get whatever is important for dairying. I'm really skeptical about using the word processing because, except for my undergraduate knowledge in processing, I have very little to offer in that line. But I'll be just traveling to some extent where I will just indicate that it starts with the farmers' farm gate level, and in processing also some of these issues they overlap. And the issues I will just point out in the course of that. So first, I would like to put to any audience the 3 things I always make it a point to tell. Healthcare must satisfy 3 components. One is the services and the resources must be available to the end user. Second point is the services and the resources must be affordable. Of course, many of these things, so-called systems, satisfy these two things by and large. We have no problem about it. But my personal feeling is that the third component of healthcare, be it human or animals, there should be a predictable outcome with some time frame. You say 2 days time or 2 weeks time or maybe 2 months time. We must be in a position to predict that the outcome is this. We have to say that it will become all right. The production of the animal will be back. The animal will become pregnant. It will give the offspring. So all these outcomes should be predictable. Then only we call it as a system. So after 20 years of work in this, it is not merely to reduce antibiotics or any synthetic chemicals in milk, meat, or eggs. It is this component which is superior, far, far superior. As a clinical pharmacologist working in the field for the last 20 years and having exposure across the country with dairy veterinarians through NDDB, now we are also working with Abbott India, and we are also working with the government veterinary doctors in Haryana. Sikkim, we have trained 2-3 batches there, and Punjab, we are contemplating. So, with this experience, I feel that we have a very specific knowledge about the outcome of this. So, with this, let me just, I'm also very happy that this birth centenary celebrations of Dr. Verghese Kurian is happening, and I am part of this program.
Dr. Punyamurthy, sorry to interrupt you. We are not able to see you, sir.
Oh, you want to see my video also?
Yeah,
I thought.
no, yeah, because we have to see you also. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Before I just start this, I would like to show this slide in the interest of understanding a fundamental aspect of any producer, supplier, and also as a consumer. This is a Rainforest Alliance certified sachet brought my friend Dr. Uday Suryan, who's a poultry consultant. He came from Mexico and he showed me this small sachet with 10 grams of coffee powder. When I went through this, I was told that Rainforest Alliance certified means this particular material, in this case, it is coffee. It is grown on farms where forests are protected, rivers, soil, and wildlife are conserved. Workers are treated with respect, paid decent wages. They are equipped and given access to education and healthcare.
Beautiful.
And also, the Rainforest Alliance seal means that experienced inspectors have ensured that the farms meet demanding social and environmental standards and are on a path toward true sustainability. When I saw this, it really struck me like a bolt that we should be in a position as a veterinarian at some point involving all the stakeholders. We say we give a seal. This is the milk from our company, from our organization, from our unit, from our cooperative. You please be ensured that this is the best thing you can get out of a source which is coming from the cow, buffalo, and from an environment which is not spoiled. So, as a veterinary pharmacologist, I am just concentrating on synthetic chemicals being reduced or completely displaced in this sense of healthcare for prevention and treatment, so that we don't get any residues in the milk we consume. So I just feel this kind of things should be in the minds of all those stakeholders, and in the course of time we should achieve this. So these are all some of the things I just took it for my own understanding. But this is the slide I would like to say. The contamination of milk can happen at so many points. We do not know where exactly it happens. So during my stay in Netherlands, we used to stay only in dairy farms. When we were discussing, and they were telling, sir, some time earlier, there used to be some people used to spike our bulk milk cooler out of enmity. So I was really taken aback in places where, people just keep the open doors and they are very open, very civilized society. So we do not know, either knowingly or unknowingly, people are playing some game for their vested interest, and the ultimate issue of taking a clean milk suffers. So in that sense, we have to realize that milk, which is white, should also be very clean. And as a veterinarian, as a producer, as a processor, every one of us, we are really responsible in every sense to make the milk which is clean and to be used by any infant or adult person. At this juncture, I think it's not out of place to mention about the melamine episode in 2008. You know, the entire world was shocked to death. They never realized that so many hundreds of thousands of children were affected. So many people think they are doing it only for good or probably to increase efficiency at some point, either at the animals level or at the processing level or whatever you call it. I'm not talking about milk in this sense, in many areas of food processing. But finally, the outcome is very dangerous. This is one of the worst examples. Nobody should have this happen once again. So let me concentrate on the antibiotic residues. See, these issues are very sensitive issues. Nobody wants to believe that antibiotics could make some problem both for the animal, and the residues in turn will affect through the food chain. So this is something people won't even suspect. That is very unfortunate. I had this opportunity a little earlier in 1997 when I was visiting McGill University in Canada. I had a paper written with the Hing Mang Chan, my host professor. So I had a very extensive review done at the time. I was shocked to know that there was not a single paper except one Addison et al. Paper in 1964 or 65. There was not much about the fate of antibiotics in the soil or in the environment. That means people don't bother about it. So there was a major issue. I knew by 97 itself there's going to be a very serious problem. So I thought instead of telling people not to use antibiotics, we should rather tell people you use this. So that's how we started. These are all some of the bad effects. But what is very important in this context of presentation and idea is the antibiotic residues affecting the various process of cheese and yogurt making, inhibiting the starter cultures, is something very crucial. Some of the small industries may not realize. And another important point is nobody knows at that level, in the processing level, how to prevent or reduce this. So that is where my presentation will concentrate. How we have been successful. We are just giving a sort of awareness that is possible. So this is another area. You know, quinolones were introduced in 1990, supposed to be the last group of antimicrobials. If you start from penicillin, 1935, 40, 50s, it came into existence. So within 30, 40 years, we lost track of newer antibiotics coming. They came, but with a lot of loaded taglines, toxicity. Quinolones, one of the wonderful compounds, and it was very clearly told in 1990s itself, don't use it in animals because they are the last antimicrobial substance available for critical human health care. But unfortunately, nothing much is being cared at this level. And the most important point I would like to stress through this slide is they are very thermostable. They resist high temperatures. You know, these kind of thermostability, even if it is thermolabile, we do not know about the fate of those metabolites. This is something we have to be very careful. When people say, FAO says, handle antibiotics with care, and they talk about so many things. They say, be careful, but they don't come out with any solution because very difficult for any organization come out because our dependence, our mental dependence is so much. The November 2020, there was a World Antimicrobial Awareness Week. And I just go through all the literature they provide. They never talk about any replacement or any alternatives because they have no idea. Because the antibiotic usage is being channelized in a particular way, there is no way somebody can come in and tell you reduce this, use this. There is no possibility of such thing. We cannot blame anyone. So multi-drug resistant organisms have become a menace in this world, and people, public life has got very limited understanding of this. I know this interagency coordination group involved almost all the top international organizations in agriculture, human, animal health. So it said we cannot wait anymore. We have to act quickly. And they are talking about so many issues to be handled. And this is something very, very disturbing. So many people